cat in the wall, eh? Okay, now you're talking my language.
You ever drunk Baileys from a shoe?
Oh, great. Thanks, Mother, for replacing the baby aspirin with LSD.
How much you want to make a bet I can throw a football over the mountain?
All right, welcome back to the View from C Deck, and we have, I think, a banger of a show coming up today. And we got everybody in the house, well, besides Mike, but he doesn't count. But we got the Haas, and we have the Dire Wolf here to break down Ohio State's big win against Penn State. I guess theoretically, yes, it is. But and we'll preview Northwestern for like 60 seconds because there's not much to talk about for that game, to be honest. And there's a lot to talk about what happened in Happy Valley Saturday. Buckeyes get a win. They don't quite cover. They're close, but 44-31, the game hits the over big time because 45 points get scored in the fourth quarter between the two teams. The Buckeyes score 4 touchdowns in like a 6-minute span. Ohio State basically played about 15 good minutes in this game, but they were a hell of a 15 minutes. And JT Tuimoloau has one of the greatest statistical games in the history of college football, probably, for a defensive end. 6 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, which one he takes back for a touchdown, a pass deflection that gets picked off by Zach Harrison. We had to have set a record for pure D-end interceptions, I would think, in a game. 3 by pure D-ends, like they're not linebackers at all, even though JT did drop back in coverage in one of them. But on the other hand, there was a lot of uneven play for the Buckeyes. We really struggled. We got outgained. We got out first down. We got out passed. We got out rushed. But the 4 turnovers that they forced ends up with a somewhat convincing victory. What did you guys think Saturday? Casey, we'll start with you.
Yeah, it was definitely coming off the Iowa game. I was wanting to see us establish the run, especially seeing Scum gash them for 400, I think it was. But that didn't happen, obviously, so that was concerning. Mine going out definitely hurt. For whatever reason, he seems like the guy now, to me, anyway. He had 2 runs. One of them was a touchdown. The other one was like 6 yards, and then he's done. Yeah. So, cross my fingers. It looked like he snapped his wrist, but then the more I hear, it might not be that serious.
It might be 2 injuries. It might be his knee, too, though, it sounds like.
I thought his knee was the worst injury.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was definitely concerning the run game, but it's just like Klatt was saying, man, it's like an avalanche coming. Eventually, they can't keep stopping us, and the play calling was the thing that pissed me off more than anything. There were some questionable things Stroud was doing, but it really mainly goes back on Day.
Oh, he's going to get some wrath from me during this podcast here.
Screen passes, like that's cute to try 1 or 2 every once in a while, but after the second or third one, just be done with it, man. The field was open all day long, and then obviously the end of that first half, like that was questionable at best. And then it was finally like he was like, okay, we're just going to throw every freaking pass, and it worked. I think I was texting you guys saying throw it every time, and we did until he did a screen and a draw on 3rd and 6, and then we kicked a field goal. I think that was to go up 2, I believe.
We went screen draw actually on that.
Yeah, that was really frustrating, but I mean overall they played like crap for 3 quarters, and it still all came together in the very end. They played great when they had to.
Haas, what do you think?
There was a number of things going into the game that I was concerned about. I mean, I've been concerned about them all season, so it was like when we finally face a good team on the road, what's gonna happen? The play calling, how's our offensive line actually gonna hold up against good competition? And, how does the passing game evolve over the stretch of a game? Going into the season, we knew coming from the Rose Bowl, we're like, all right, we have high expectations for this offense, and right out of the gate, they sputtered against Notre Dame. What worked in that Rose Bowl was the run after catch. I mean, obviously, Jackson Smith was just electric, getting the ball and running. Throughout this season, it seems like CJ's pressing the ball downfield too much, trying to make these miraculous throws into double, triple coverage. I mean, we saw him throw, 2 weeks ago into quadruple coverage. He's making these throws that are just not needed. And I think this Penn State, specifically that last 6 or 7 minutes, just to Marvin Harrison, just feeding him the ball, just get it in their hands for those 5 to 10 yard gains and let them make an additional 10 to 15 yards running after the catch. And I think maybe that's where he's like, oh, hey, you know what? That worked in the Rose Bowl. Why don't we just continue to do that rather than, and those throws will come when those safeties start cheating up and having to help tackle those quick catches and quick slant routes and quick, hitting Stover over the middle.
Mhm.
That's what was kind of concerning for me in the start of the season. And, it's kind of relieving to see him finally do that. The offensive line, obviously, last year was pretty bad, pretty atrocious at times. And, this season they've been decent. Iowa, they weren't too great. And then this game, they weren't really great at all. So, or anything to write home about. So I think we've reiterated it a couple times. Let's just be a pass-first team and let that open up the run. I think Day wants to try to be 50-50 balanced too much. It's okay. It's okay to be a pass-happy offense and just do what works.
Yeah, the running game, I think the O-line played as pass proed really well the whole season. Like, I don't think there's any problems there. I think Matthew Jones himself was getting demolished on Saturday. He had probably the worst game any lineman's had this year so far. He was getting driven into the backfield several times. I mean, PJ Mustipher is a monster in the middle. Span loves to jump off sides on 2-point conversions, but he gave us lots of problems. I kind of want to go chronological through the game though first. So we start off hot as can be. We come down, score field goal. We're gonna get sputter a bit down on the Penn State side, but they're a good defense and no big deal. Then force turnover immediately and don't do much with it. But we scored the touchdown. We go up 10-0 right away.
We went up 10-0. It was off
right away. Then force another interception. So both plays are made by JT. And I remember last week I was talking about turnover luck. This week we forced them. Those were all forced by JT. Then we had forced a couple others that we got unlucky on fumbles later on in the game. Both were huge, by the way, too. And it was one of those like, oh, God, this crap just keeps happening in Penn State. But so we start off, then we sputter on that drive, though, miss a long field goal. Ruggles, don't trust him over 50 yards. I don't trust him outside 45 yards.
I don't trust, 40, 45 backs. And then past that, no.
Yeah.
We should have went for it at that point.
I agree. The first of the questionable day. Go ahead. It's 4th and 6. It was at the 36-yard line.
Yeah, 4th and 6. If you don't get it, oh well. I mean, our defense was playing pretty well at that point, and if you fourth it, you can get a 6-yard pass to Marvin all day long. It was working on 3rd down.
We've said before that if it's 3rd and 7, I trust that we're going to get it. I think we can get it on 4th and 6. But yeah, I think it's a higher percentage play than Ruggles hitting a 53-yarder anyway, and you're in no man's land. But then from that point on. I remember turning to my wife when we're up 10-7 and going, we're going to lose this game because just the way we looked. They hit the big pass to Washington where he breaks a tackle. And I think we tackled. This is our worst tackling game of the year by far. We missed a lot of tackles. 2 of their touchdowns were straight up missed tackles by us. That sort of seemed to ignite Penn State. And from then until we went on that run in the 4th quarter, it was the struggle bus, especially on offense. You're right. Casey hit on those screen passes earlier. I know that Day he's trying to stretch the defense, test them a little bit, see what they're doing, see if they're reacting to it. But then he got cute there on that drive in the second half, like you said, and runs them back-to-back plays. But I think he thought they wouldn't see it coming. I don't know what his thought process were, because that was the 5th of the final screens, and we got 2 yards total on 5 wide receiver screens in that game. Which is pathetic. But then we'll get to the end of the first half. So we're down 14-10. No, we're down 14-13 at that point. We're driving. It looks like we're about to seize when we kick the field goal down 14-13. We're going to seize momentum. TJ's putting together a pretty nice drive. We're not managing the clock great, but we're down there. Yeah. We're to the 9-yard line with 6 seconds left. And I think if we made a bad play to get to that at that point, we were in better position beforehand. But we're there. And Ryan Day decides to not kick the field goal immediately, and we're going to take a shot at the end zone. And my immediate thought as it's happening, I'm like, why are we doing this? Because there's basically 2 throws you can make that are safe throws, because you can't think the clock's going to stop even 6 seconds left. I don't think. Like, I heard Urban say at halftime, 6 seconds, you can get a playoff. I'm like, that's the coach thinking best case scenario. I'm thinking worst case scenario or middle case scenario. You can throw a fade because that's quick, but you're from the 9-yard line. They're going to be sitting back on it. There's no way you're completing that. Or you can throw a back shoulder throw to the pylon, hoping that they're playing the fade basically. But it's still a pretty long throw and gives them time to break on it. These are both low percentage plays. The highest percentage by far, and I would think the analytics would tell you that the highest, expected point value would be just kick the field goal there, take the lead into halftime, and reassess what's going on. And Day doesn't, and CJ, it doesn't even matter. I think if he gets the ball off, he hitches at first, which means you're already 2 seconds down. If he throws the ball up, you risk the clock running out anyway. Ends up taking a sack though anyway, so it's a moot point because it takes a sack and we get nothing out of that drive. What were you guys thought? That is my what are you doing for the week?
Yeah, I would. And my initial thought was the 6 seconds. I thought, okay, if he's fast enough, throws it immediately, that can be incomplete in under 5 for sure.
Mm-hmm.
If you do it perfect. So I wasn't that upset with it, but the whole design after you've described it, the smart call was definitely kick the field goal. I think the play earlier in the drive was what really killed it. He took a sack and we had to waste a timeout, and we lost 12 yards because he rolled back into the left.
Yeah.
He just throws that away immediately. You save, 10 seconds plus the timeout and 10 yards. But that, I think maybe he'll learn from that. Day will. He's just so damn aggressive, which I love most of the time. But take the points.
He was. I'll let Jason finish. Go ahead, Jason.
I know where you're going.
On aggression. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys know I was confused with the timeout, with them having that timeout on there. So I was like, all right, we have a timeout, so worst case scenario, we'll get the field goal. Not having a timeout, take the points. I mean, like, I can get into a rant here about Kevin Stefanski and the NFL coaches and what this whole trend is going towards and going for it.
That's what it was. And Franklin did have too. Franklin did say.
With my thing, you're struggling. You are at the point now where you are struggling to put together drives, 3-and-outs, punts. You're down. You need any momentum, especially going into half, and you would be on top. That's a huge momentum thing for your team. Just take the point. You just hammer it. Take the points.
Just take the points.
And I didn't realize that there wasn't timeouts either. But the last one, the ref said, you could hear him say, "This is the last and final timeout." And then I noticed the scoreboard still left one on it.
That's why I was confused. Yeah.
Me too. But Casey's point is talking about the aggression. So at that point, we basically say Day was willing to risk 3 points to gain 4 more, to gain 7.
Mm-hmm.
On what was probably a less than 10% chance play of happening, I would guess, in that situation.
Probably 5. Yeah.
So we get to later in the game, some 2-point conversions that happen that are hysterically similar in what happens.
Yeah.
As we false start after PJ Mustipher jumps into the neutral zone twice. Now the second one, I think Cade moved it like the exact same time, so I think it was on Cade. The first one though, Mustipher clearly was in there before Stover moves and made Stover jump. I don't see how it's not a penalty on Penn State.
Were they the same refs in the Browns game last week?
That's what me and Pete were talking about. If it's the same rules in the NFL where you have to, if you're more than 2 spaces away from the guy that jumps off sides, which is, I get the rule, but at the same time, why is that rule so specific and other ones aren't? I don't understand that one. So, but anyway, whatever. If that's the rule, they got it right.
It's arbitrary.
For it. I think they still should have went for it. Screw the one.
Well, that's my point. This is my point though. So then from the 9-yard line and with only 6 seconds left, he's willing to make that risk 3 points.
Yep.
But from the 7, so that's what those are going to be. He's not willing to risk 1 point 2 separate times in the second half when it makes sense mathematically to go for it. Because the 1 point doesn't really help you unless you're banking on a missed extra point in college, which is not something you should bank on.
It does nothing, but it's funny how those scoring sheets work, because I was screaming that too. Because at that point, what was the score at that point? Remind me.
The first one, it was 22-21.
22-21. Okay, so we go for 1.
Yeah.
Right? And we go up.
We were gonna go for 2 until we false start.
Yes, but it actually ended up
Benefiting us because we went up by 2 scores by scoring a touchdown.
We went up 9.
Yeah.
Where if we missed the 2 point, we would have only been up 8. So, like,
Which goes.
it worked out. But I'm screaming like, go for it. We got the best receiver in the country, the best quarterback in the country. Just freaking throw a ball up.
But I'm also, like I said, I'll reiterate my point. Go, just take the points. I mean, because you're gonna, you or they are going to score again at some point. It's, it's not. I'm never in favor of going for 2 until you have to, or until you can foresee the possibility, like sometime in the fourth quarter, where you're gonna, all right, scoring's getting tight. But at that point, you're like, all right,
It's the fourth quarter.
Scoring is ramping up here. We're gonna score more. It just had to have happened.
I think it was the right call to go for 2 the first time, especially. Maybe not. Well, I think both times it makes more sense to go for 2 because because the second time was to go up 14 instead of 13.
Were they both they were both in the fourth quarter too?
Yeah, they're both in the fourth quarter, both less than 10 minutes left. So it is, I think, the right move to go for 2. It's funny though because we have a history of that happening, getting up by 1 against them, going for 2 and not getting it, and then having to protect that 1-point lead in both 2017 and 2018. Yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Both those games we ended up going for 2 and having to protect the 1-point lead and being able to do it because I think Sean Clifford was there for both those games. Is that right? No, McSorley was 17.
Maybe not. Yeah. I was thinking it crossed the line at one point. We're going to go for 2, miss this, and win by freaking 1 point again.
I had the exact same thought, Casey, when that happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I thought it was just a weird day from day. Several decisions that left leave you scratching your head, and it's kind of stuff that's popped up before there where his aggression, I think, can be a hindrance to this team. But he was kind of timid in his play calling a lot of the day too, like with the screens and a lot of trying to stick with the running game that clearly wasn't working because I think Penn State's main idea was we're going to crash downhill no matter what and leave them hope that day doesn't just stick with going to the digs and stuff over the middle. Which once he did started doing that, I mean, CJ goes 10 for his last 12 for 120 yards and a touchdown.
He killed. Yeah.
CJ, I had no problem with CJ in that game for the most part. I mean, a couple decisions on that last drive in the first half, you're right, but it wasn't. I don't think he should have ever been in that situation for the play at the goal line.
Clock management, maybe.
You're
going
right.
up to the line and trying to check these plays, or audible to a second play, or call out the Mike or Sam linebackers. A little bit too much at home. Understandable. You can hear, everybody can hear you. On the road, loud atmosphere. I mean, even if what you say is probably might not be picked up. At some point, the hurry up was working there at times. I felt like we should have just went tempo there and just kept the Avalanche going rather than risk. All right, do we really need to call out these checks and audibles? And that's something that he's done all year. And I mean, Days historically has done, having Justin Fields and stuff check out the lines and stuff. But at a certain point, tempo can be your benefactor.
Yeah. I was really pissed at those delay of games. I think he did it a couple times in the Iowa game too.
Yes, that's where it's kind of started getting bad there, and then it kind of just blossomed over into this game.
It's definitely Stroud's fault, but it ultimately comes down to Day on not calling a timeout, right? I mean,
that's all Day. That all the checks and stuff are Day. Day's telling him. I mean, and it's taken a while because of the environment you're in, where you have to go tell everybody individually pretty much what the play is.
I just can't believe he's willing. He's basically saying, I'm willing to give up 5 yards and save this timeout, which I do not agree with most of the time.
Well, that does make sense because the first 4 or 5 games of the year, in the first half at least, he was blowing the timeouts in the first quarter. He'd blow a timeout in the first 2 minutes of the game, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. We're playing Arkansas Toledo, and then we get to these games and he's saving timeouts in the first half, or he wasn't, I guess. But he just these timeouts, delay games. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
he's the master of blowing the first and goal at the 1 timeout on the defense. Where I'm like, you know what? If it's first and goal at the 1. Let's just eat that touchdown, and rather than waste a timeout, because they're probably scoring anyway. What's the odds of them scoring? 80, 90%? Let's
easily.
Unless you get a false start.
Yeah. You need something bad to happen for them. Yeah, and in regards to the running game struggles too, I think a lot of it has to be placed at Travion Henderson's feet for this game since mine got hurt. He's starting to juke he's taking hop steps in the backfield when nobody's coming through yet. Like and it's Jason and I were discussing this earlier today. I was like, if it's a zone running scheme. You make those moves at the line. Once you get up there, that's when you make your cuts, and you mainly are just trying to like move your way towards the line. As soon as you see the hole, that's when you cut. And that's kind of how it's supposed to work. And he finally did it on the last freaking play on the 41-yard touchdown run. But other than that, he had like 2 8-yard runs as well. If you take away those 3 runs, he had 14 carries for 20 yards, which is just pathetic. And they weren't blocking that bad. Like it wasn't that bad of blocking that should happen. And I think he had 5 times he got tackled for a loss. Like that is ridiculous. And like 2 or 3 of those were like on Matthew Jones getting blown back. But a couple of them, he starts making those jukes behind. Like you're losing your momentum. You're killing the momentum of the play before you even get there. You have no chance because the backside guy, like somebody's unblocked in a zone scheme always. So their backside guy is going to be able to get to you. It's very frustrating to watch him right now because we know the talent that he has. I mean, he's displayed it on that 41-yard run, and then he followed it up with that 8-yard run, and they both look good. So maybe something clicked finally.
I was a little disappointed. I know he's a freshman. It was a big game on the road, but I'm thinking he finally hit it later, Trey did, but I wanted to see Hayden in there a little bit. I mean, Mayan's hurt. Give him a blow. Give him a drive. Give him a chance. Every time he's been in, he's carried the rock pretty well. I mean, probably the fact that he's a freshman on the road against Penn State and the game was in question. I get it. Mm-hmm. I was screaming for him to get a chance.
Yeah.
I mean, Casey, I do make some overreactions. I do make some bold statements on some stuff. I'm not giving up my hatred for some of these secondary players because they did get exposed a little bit by their passing game. And my roommate's one of the biggest Travion Henderson fans. He's been following him since he was a freshman in college. And I said, like when mine went down, I'm like, Henderson's not it. Like he hasn't shown much, but I do have to go back. He's been banged up for most of the year, and especially with the running back having to get chemistry with his offensive line, finding the holes. It is kind of tough for him because he started the year pretty hurt. He's just now starting to get healthy maybe. So I think he could get better, hopefully by the Michigan game if he stays healthy. So I know I don't think it's all on him. Jump cutting doesn't really help. But I'll pump the brakes a little bit for Henderson, give him a little bit of break with the injuries and stuff, and then maybe, he can kind of get back to his former self.
Yeah. So going to your point about the DBs, we can talk about the defense some outside of JT's ridiculous performance. 482 yards he had enough though, and 370 plus through the air to to Clifford. Not exactly a ringing endorsement. Probably their worst game I think they've played this year. Mainly because the tackling was what left a lot to be desired.
Yeah,
they missed several tackles. And the DB, I didn't think the DBs were getting cooked that bad though. Besides the missed, 58 yards comes on that one play. Obviously, the post that they scored the touchdown on, that Lathan Ransom, that was shades of 2021. Sorry, where you're like, what are you guys doing out there? Like you're just going to back up at 5 yards deep in the end zone and let the guy catch the ball in front of you for a touchdown? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
The one thing that I took from it in a positive light with the defense, other than JT, obviously, was our run defense is legit. And the biggest concern of the season by far is obviously scum coming at the end of the year. And that's all they can do, really. They're a one-trick pony. I mean, their quarterback is decent, but, I mean, if you look at his passing yards, he's efficient. Yeah. But they don't throw it down the field much. So if we can stop the run, which I think we can against them at home, we'll basically make that game over. And it looks like we're a top 10 rushing defense at this point.
We did struggle a little bit, though, in both sides of the ball and perimeter, like with the receivers, especially Ibuka, blocking on those wide receiver screens. The reason why they weren't really working was because they were getting blown up at the point of the blocks. Even Stover was even bad. Yeah, Stover. Everybody's missing blocks. So that's why they won the perimeter battle hands down. They were able to contain everything for the most part. I mean, obviously we were able to pass, but And then on defense, when they were able to stretch, they had a lot of success running the ball on first down, getting 6 or 7 yards when they ran it to the outside, pulling guards and having kick out blocks on our corners, and we were having to have safeties come up and help with the run defense. So our outside linebackers did get contained a little bit there. So that would be something to worry about that Michigan could possibly try to, when they usually do two tight end sets, they might have some success there too, being able to kind of trap our outside linebackers from helping out.
Yeah. To the point about the running, but I'm still not totally convinced, Casey, that we are that elite at stopping the run, only because the elite running teams we've played have not really stuck to it the way that I think Michigan will. And they've been able to get, not great runs, but like 4 yards a pop, 4 yards a pop. And then they get impatient and pass it, or Wisconsin falls behind early. Penn State kind of just had success passing. I think that's why they kind of went with it. But their tailbacks actually had pretty good games running the ball, especially 13. Was it Arnold's his last name? I'm trying to look it up right now. But he averaged Kaytron Allen averaged 6.3 yards a carry, 12 for 76 and a touchdown. He had some slipperiness to his game that we're going to see in Corum and Edwards there. But it's more that I think Michigan they're going to try and run it 50 times against us. And by the way, they ran 81 plays against us in that game, which is ridiculous. And that's why Eichenberg had like 15 tackles. I think if a team is willing to stick with it, that it could work. But that's not really modern college football, is to run the ball 50 times and, okay, I'm going to go 4 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards, first down, 4 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards, first down. Like, that's not really how teams do it anymore, but Michigan kind of does. And I'm not sure that I think we can necessarily stop that frequently.
And
yeah, that's a good point, because they did just, even against Michigan State, they actually struggled a little bit once they got down to the red zone. But, Corum had 35 carries or something like that, and that's becoming the norm. I'm hoping maybe that'll wear him down by the time he gets to us, coming to the shoe when it's cold, snowing, maybe something like that, But you're making me a little bit more nervous.
I'm more nervous after this game, for sure. I'm more nervous about that game.
I was more nervous after our game, but then watching them with Michigan State, I was a little less nervous.
That's fair.
I'm only nervous because our offense fluttered too many times. Like what happened last with the Michigan game, we'd go 3 and out, Michigan get the ball and have a 7-minute drive or 6-minute drive and just run the ball down our throats, go up by 7. We do another 3 and out. They do the same rinse and repeat, run it down our throat. And they want us to do that. They want to do that to get our defense tired and then have our offense have to pass the ball, play into their hands, just lay back. Hey, we're going to make them really get behind, and they're going to have to earn their ways down the field. And that's where, if that happens again, and our offense keeps sputtering like it can and maybe will, I did get a little bit more nervous. I can't say I didn't.
They don't have Hutchinson and Jabo. They still have a good D line, but it's not the same where they can just if they're up 14, they're
10 years back,
and destroy you. That's not going to happen. But their offense does worry me. I think it could be a bit of a shootout when they come to the shoe, and I hope it's not cold, Casey, because I want our passing offense to be able to go full bore.
It's 70s this week, man. The way we're going, it's probably going to be like 50 at that time.
Perfect.
Oh, I definitely don't want it to snow. I didn't mean to misconstrue that. Yeah, that plays into their favor 100%. But I guess I'm thinking with our linebacker play and all that, if we know they're going to run it, I don't think they can consistently keep running it down our throats anywhere near to what they were doing last year.
I don't think it'll be like last year. I agree with that.
We have JTT and even Sawyer, they've grown up, and I think our defensive line they took a step up this year, big time. But I think they blown out expectations for me.
Yeah, I think.
Did he really have 15 tackles? Is that what he had?
Yeah.
He's
81 plays. You're going to get that many tackles.
There's how many tackles did he have? Probably 75.
It's probably closer to 80. I think he had like 63 coming into the game. So
got to be close. He's on pace for 100 on the regular season.
Oh, he's going to go over 100 because he's going to end up with like 15 against Michigan almost for sure because they're going to run the ball a lot either way or throw short passes. That's what they do.
linebacker since Raekwon, I think, to have 100.
Yeah, that sounds right. Warner didn't. I'm guessing he didn't.
I don't close, but I don't.
Jerome Baker? No.
No, he was never close to on the tackles, just because of the way they were playing then. Yeah. Well, anyway,
Northwestern. Yeah, we already won.
Yeah, definitely got me a little more nervous about that Michigan game. But we move on to Northwestern very briefly because there isn't much to talk about. As we've made fun of Iowa's offense, they actually made Iowa's offense look capable on Saturday. The Direwolf actually picked Iowa to cover, and they did so easily. And it's a 38-point spread right now, I believe. I'm actually not even sure what the over-under is, but I don't think it matters because we're going to beat their ass. They's going to want to put up some stats up for CJ because this Heisman race may be over after this weekend if he doesn't put up some monster numbers. If Hendon Hooker puts up a monster game against Georgia.
I think if he beats Georgia unless if he throws like 2 or 3 interceptions, I think if Tennessee beats Georgia, just for that alone, he'll probably win it. Unfortunately,
I would say not quite, just because it seems like voters, it's like time is of the essence with them. It's what have you done for me lately? And
that's true.
Stroud's going to have his biggest Heisman moment potentially at the very last game. A lot of voters put in their vote before the championship weekends.
Yeah.
So he'll be way ahead if he is the reason why they beat Georgia. But then if Stroud is the reason why we beat Michigan, it'll probably go back to neck and neck.
To go back to the Northwestern, the only thing I'm really looking forward to is Paris Johnson's been playing himself like number 2 tackle. The number 1 tackle is on Northwestern, Skoronski. It's going to be interesting to see what we throw at him if we just throw the whole bag of nails at him and to try to get Paris Johnson elevated to that number 1. Because it's been a while since we've had our tackles go. It's the number 1 tackle. So it would be kind of cool to see us put a bad game on his resume. But it's gonna be he's the real deal, that guy.
That could go both ways because Rashawn Slater became a first-round pick because of the way he performed against Chase Young that year.
Yeah.
And has proven to be worth that in the NFL. So yeah, we may throw everything we have at him, but JT could easily go back to his 0 sack ways this week because that cat's good. But as a whole, they're a terrible team. They've been getting destroyed by everybody not named Scott Frost-led Nebraska, and that includes like bad team like Duke and beat the crap out of them earlier this year.
They're one of the worst Power 5 teams for sure.
Yeah. Right there with Jason's favorite team, Vanderbilt. Actually,
Hey, man, Vanderbilt's got multiple wins.
I think Vanderbilt would beat them by 21. So, yeah, I agree.
The biggest thing I want to see is I'm just curious to see just injury status. Like, obviously, JSN's not going to play against freaking Northwestern, but I'm just curious to see what it's going to be like for Mayan. I doubt. I mean, why? But I just want an update, and then I want to see these younger guys get some playing time. Dallin Hayden's getting a lot of carries. Want to see big boy Trey and him get some carries in there running back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he has yet this year, has he? Maybe 1 or 2 carries?
Maybe 1 or 2 at the end of the previous game.
Yeah.
Iowa, but I don't remember.
I don't want our second or third string defense to give up some bullshit touchdowns either. I want to see like a 63-0 game.
The over under 61.5. So if you want the over, that had to be it. I can definitely see it being like, man, this was tough. I think 54-7 was my first thought, and that puts you just missing the under.
Yeah,
Vegas is good, except for
I wouldn't.
I'm taking the cover in the over though.
I wouldn't touch the over under on this one just because they could score 0 and we're not scoring 63 most likely. We could, but you're not going to. Yeah, wanted to, we could, but I guess Day does want that Heisman, I think, to put that feather in his head.
No doubt the way he's coached. All right. So tonight, this is Monday. We're recording it Monday, Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody. Tomorrow is the first release of the CFP playoff poll. So instead of asking about how we feel about our championship hopes, I'm going to ask you guys, what you think if the committee is going to look like, if there's any teams you think are going to be like ranked way higher than they are in the current polls, or what do you have for your top four? I'll start with mine, though. I think it's going to go, and I'm pretty confident in this, Georgia 1, Tennessee 2, Ohio State 3, Michigan 4. And then I might throw in a wrench here and put TCU at 5 from them.
Damn it. You
No.
took my line.
Did I? TCU 5, Clemson 6, Bama 7 is how I would see them rating it. But what do you guys think?
I'll let you go.
Yeah, Georgia 1, Tennessee 2, us 3. I mean, after this weekend, I could see if Clemson beats Notre Dame. Yeah, it's got to be Michigan 4. I would put TCU at 5 because they've looked better than Clemson. Clemson struggled a little bit more than TCU has. TCU looks like a complete team at times. I'd put TCU at 5, and I think they probably have more wins, more better resume maybe. I'd have to look at Clemson's.
No doubt. I think their grand total opponents have to have a winning record.
Yeah.
So many teams are 5-3 or 6-2.
Clemson 5, Alabama 6, and then Oregon 7. Yeah, I mean, there's not much intrigue here. I mean, there was now. I mean, like I said, every week these teams are going to lose, and we're getting down to it already. Where we got the 4 teams almost already, other than us in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Since you guys both said the same stupid bullshit, the committee likes to reward the most complete team. They've said that numerous times, but they're also wishy-washy a little bit. Sometimes they're not very consistent in their reasoning. But honestly, my gut is we are going to be number 1 because of our top-ranked offense and defense. No other team can say that. Tennessee,
Georgia
is.
Georgia's got a better win.
Georgia's defense or offense is nowhere near what ours is, and our defense is close to.
They're number 2 in total yards per game, Casey.
They've got a pretty good offense, man. We're not covering their tight ends. I'm sorry, we're not covering their tight ends.
So we're 1, Georgia 2, Tennessee 3. And I think it's debatable. I think the most interesting point is going to be who's 4 between Michigan and Clemson. But I'm going to go with Michigan. And what I'm really curious to see is how high they have Illinois.
I am very curious about that. Is that
they were up until I think Indiana stole the game with like 40 seconds left. They could easily be undefeated, and they'd be probably 5 or 6 right now.
Indiana's trash, so being in position to lose that game's bad.
And the main reason I'm putting us ahead of Georgia is because they have struggled in a couple of games. They beat Kent State by like 17.
And it's never a wide margin in that game. They was pretty even scoring like the whole game.
They almost lost to Missouri.
Missouri, they had them on the ropes. Missouri blew that game because they're freaking Missouri. But top 3 is very debatable.
I love
it. I don't see. There's no chance. I mean, Tennessee beat Alabama. They're the freaking darling, but their defense is so poo. If they're ahead of us, that's bullshit.
I mean, I think we're better than them for sure. I don't know if we're better than Georgia, but I think the committee is going to reward that. Plus, they get a 1 versus 2 matchup this week.
Yes, that's the number 1. I mean, you got to do that. It doesn't hurt us not being 1 this week. It really. It's all going to shank down.
I mean, even if we're 1, it means nothing because whoever wins that game is going to be 1 next week.
Yes.
So
being 1 may not be a blessing anyway, because you're probably playing the loser of the SEC of either one of Tennessee, Georgia, Alabama anyway.
You're saying
4 seed.
They're not
like Clemson
in the first round of the playoffs. They just won't.
No, I mean the most likely scenario if they all end up with a loss is like an undefeated Big Ten champ number 1, another undefeated team number 2, then the number 3 SEC champ or 2, it doesn't matter either way. 3-2 play each other, and then number 4 being the SEC non-champ
Loser. Yeah.
Seems like a very likely scenario. So either way, we're playing an SEC team, so whatever.
Potentially.
You want to be the best, you got to beat the best.
That's true, and I think they are. I think those are I think the top 3 there are the 3 best teams in the country. I think.
I mean, the best game everybody would want to see, I feel like, would be us in Tennessee because there's going to be points put up. So if that can happen, they're going to make it happen.
Fireworks. Stroud here. So the other guy that should be in the Heisman can't right now. Hooker is now the betting favorite, Casey. In case you didn't hear that, but he is. Duggan isn't getting enough love at TCU though. Those three have thrown almost the exact same amount of passes, which is stunning. Like they're both. It's like 223, 221, 219 in 8 games. Hooker and Stroud basically have the exact same stats besides touchdowns. And a couple more interceptions for Stroud, but he's got more, like 7 more touchdowns. But like their both average 10.7 yards per attempt, 1 and 2 in the country. Duggan's third at 10 yards an attempt, and like at the exact same thing, 22 touchdowns to 2 picks. Like it's insane, and he's not getting any love whatsoever. And they're undefeated, like running through it.
Get some running back some love. I'm interested. I didn't look at the odds. Obviously, Corral, and then Illinois. I mean, he's been carrying the rock. He's been carrying them. So I'd like to see them at least go to one of them. I know it's Michigan. I know, but I'd like to see some running backs go to New York and just get some anything other than quarterbacks.
Corum deserves to be there for sure. He's running.
Oh, Corum, sorry.
I mean, depending on how that game goes, I don't even want to mention it, but if it goes their way, he could steal it.
Yes.
He might. I think the media wants to give it to Hooker right now. So if they go undefeated, he's getting it.
Anybody that beats Bama is the darling.
Give us our shot, man. They come to the shoe, we're beating their ass, just like they did in Young.
Yeah.
All right, but that'll do it for this week. Everybody enjoy watching those rankings tomorrow. Well, don't watch them. Don't actually give ESPN the views, but definitely go look them up afterwards, and we can talk about it later. We'll put this up there on our Twitter at View from CDEC. Follow us, subscribe, comment. Lots to comment about. Tell us how shitty of a coach Ryan Day was on Saturday. Not that I think he's a shitty coach overall, but I think his weaknesses were shown big time in like every way on Saturday, and hopefully he corrects them by.
We want Urban.
We want Tressel. Huh?
I want 2006 again.
All right. 2009. Oh man, no, let's not do that. All right. Thanks for tuning in, though, guys. We'll see you guys later.
Hey guys! Whoa, big gulps, huh? All right. Well, see you later.
A rich man's world. I have turned the soul of this beautiful land, but the